So you might wonder, why do I put artwork around Warialda? Well, when I first got to Warialda, it was in drought and it was getting pretty severe at the time, and family after family had to keep leaving this area. And so I decided that I had to try to do something about that. And whilst I didn't really know at the time what I was going to do, I just thought, well, I have to do something. And so something is exactly what I did. And I did toy around with a few other ideas, but then COVID happened and we were all restricted. But I started to work with my art teacher and went, okay, well, how can we add features to the town to get perhaps tourism here? And we were still in the thick of drought at that point, and we decided that we were going to play off the theme, which is our town, which is Warialda is the place of wild honey. And so that's what we went, okay, well, let's just make really big flower sculptures. That's what we'll do. And we thought, well, what can we make them out of? And I'd watched a few things about people making art out of polystyrene. I thought, oh yeah, I can do that. Or we can do that as a school, and the art classes can do that. Let's do that. So that's what we thought, well, that's what I thought at the time we would do. And so that's where we started. But then unfortunately, the buildings that we were going to be doing the sculpting in were full of, we had to keep using the buildings because the school was being re-roofed at the time. And I don't know whether you know this, but when you sculpt polystyrene, well, imagine what happens inside a beanbag. Well, that's exactly what happens to everything, basically. It's completely covered and caked in polystyrene, like beans, and that's not what you want. So we couldn't sort of do it anywhere else. We needed to be in this one particular building. We needed the space and room to sculpt. And that took probably 6 to 9 months to redo the whole school. And therefore in that time, and plus when kids were doing exams and stuff, when they stopped, we couldn't necessarily just go straight into sculpting the polystyrene because kids had other priorities at that time. And so at the end of the year we started on 1 or 2 big sculptures, but they didn't really come to fruition, and then that art teacher left. And I went, oh, great, that's real smart. And then the new art teacher, who I don't have now, she had absolutely zero interest in sculpting with polystyrene. And so she wasn't keen to touch the stuff. So I went, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this polystyrene that we had bought specifically to build features for the town? And then from there, that's when I went, okay, well, maybe I should take this stuff home and figure out what to do with it. And I asked my director, and she said, yeah, sure. And because we had all of these polystyrene discs, like humongous Panadol pills that were 1.2 meters by 60 centimeters, like they were pretty big, I thought, what can I make that will stack well and will, you know, I don't have to do that much sculpting. Is there anything cylindrical that I could do where I could stack these on top of each other? And then from there, that's when I realised, well, R2D2 is pretty cylindrical. Maybe I could make R2D2. And then from there I went, oh, okay, R2D2, this is a bee themed town. How can I make it a bee related theme? And that's when I came up with R2B2, and I thought that was absolutely hilarious at the time. I thought R2B2, we'll paint him in bee colours. That is bomb. Like, what a great idea. Just go with that. So that's basically how I did it. Thank you for doing the painting. The legs are looking great. He's being resurrected. Look, he looks so happy. Well, his legs do anyway. Thank you. Thanks, Tony. You've been able to fix so much of him, so maybe he'll actually get put together.
You're welcome, Shirley.
And then I thought, you're probably thinking, well, how did you go about doing that? Because I did indeed take the stuff home, and I started in, I think, at Christmas holidays. But my husband didn't want polystyrene all over the backyard, and who can blame him? So I decided that I needed to buy one of those like pergola tent things. It has a zip up like fly wire kind of thing, so that, you know, so I bought like a pergola and a zip up fly wire tent thingy, and I started to sculpt the polystyrene in the tent, but I did it under the awning at home, like in my backyard, because I have this sort of outdoor area that's undercover, and so that's when I started there. But I must tell you, because the whole thing was, it took me, like, I just had to go step by step at a time, because like, yeah, I started in the school holidays, but he took me 18 months to build. And not only obviously I had to do the body, which was a mathematical nightmare because I only had pictures to go off. I didn't have anything three-dimensional at the time. I think I started at the beginning or the end of 2021. When did I start? Well, I installed him sort of 3/4 of the way through 2022. So therefore, I must have started him, in the Christmas holidays at the start of 2021, I think. And he took me 18 months to build. But of course, I only had pictures to go off, as I said, so I had to actually calculate everything, like every line that you see on R2, I had to calculate that off a picture and then basically base it on ratios to make it work. And that was how I did it. But then I also had to account for the fact that he was round, and lucky I'm really, really good at maths, and I had to calculate for the fact that he was round, and whilst I could see it in 2 dimensions, that 2 dimensions was not going to cut what I needed for a 3 dimension. So I had to basically, I had to use every mathematical skill I had in my repertoire in order to make that work, which I did, as you can see. But what I wasn't really prepared for is I was terrified, and I mean terrified, every time I went to go and build him or paint him or do anything, or cut into him or everything. I was absolutely terrified, not just scared, not just anxious, not just worried it wasn't going to work. Terrified I was going to stuff it up, terrified I was going to ruin the progress that I'd made so far, terrified that I'd cut in the wrong spot, because you have to cut polystyrene with a heat knife. Well, I did, and yes, you can sculpt with rasps and everything that I made. I'll probably show you that in another episode about how I made the rasps and how you can make a rasp if you're interested in sculpting polystyrene. But far out, like, I'm not just talking scared, I'm talking terrified. And I was absolutely terrified every single time. So what you're actually looking at here is the product of facing terror. And I'm not joking, like, people might think, surely, no, you were just scared and you faced your fears. And yeah, I was scared and I faced my fears. But I mean, this isn't just fear, this is terror. But I believed in what I wanted to do enough that I thought, no, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And because I believed enough in the town that I thought, no, I have to do this for the town. And despite the fact, and you might think, well, you were terrified. And yes, I was terrified every single time. And people might think, well, why the hell would you do anything that was terrifying? Except little by little, and sometimes only 20 minutes at a time, and I'd tackle each little bit 20 minutes at a time, I could start to see him coming together. Well, I'm
I've just mixed up some sealant and I'm just going to seal the black sections. As you can see, I've patched a lot of the sections all over him and sanded him back and washed him down, and now I'm just sealing the sections of cement that I have already done. I'm sorry I didn't think to bring a microphone so you can hear all the latent noise, but I'm just going to go around all the black sections where I've had to fill in gaps and just seal that ready for painting.
And I'd sculpted him all out of the polystyrene, and then of course I had to start on the legs, and that was a mathematical nightmare. And I sort of went to the school and looked at the junk that we had around the school, and we had some old school seats that were sitting around, and I thought, yeah, okay, I can do that with I can glue on some polystyrene and I can aim to sort of shape the legs around that. And again, terror, but I did it anyway, and I faced that fear and I built the legs.
Okay, one last check of him when I go all the way around to see if there's anything I've missed. Every time, yeah, there we go, I've missed that one. Every time I look at it, I just go, oh my God, I've got another hole, I've missed that. But art, I have learnt, kind of has to be imperfect, because you drive yourself mad if it's not if you can't leave it semi-imperfect. If you're an artist, please don't make it perfect, because you drive yourself bonkers and people want to come and see him just as he is. That is R2. I think I've got every spot I've needed to. All right, there he is. There's his bottom half, and hopefully by the end of the week he will be resurrected. Let's go. Have I done enough? Probably not. Never have done enough. But anyway, I've done the best I can for today. I don't really want to paint the insides of these bits. Maybe I can just leave them. I'll leave them.
Then I had to figure out how to coat it. And let me tell you, if you are trying to coat polystyrene in any kind of weatherproof fashion and trying to find things out there that are not going to cost you $1 million, it is really hard to find what can work. And I did try to do as much research as I could, and in the end I just went, you know what, it's just going to be cheaper and easier. I do understand how to work with cement render because I had rendered a few things in the past. I thought, right, what am I going to do here? I am going to just use cement render. And so that's basically what I did. And however, let me tell you that cement rendering something of this size and of this quantity and of this mammoth, it took me most of the school holidays to cement render him, and I mean 2 full weeks. Sorry, whilst I'm talking, I'm painting.
I've done everything I can with this brush, and it's now time to get a thinner brush.
I went, okay, it took me just forever to render him, and I did get a little bit of help with a friend, and she did come and help me render him. And cement render is its own beast in a way, I suppose. But that's what we did. We rendered, well, I rendered him, I suppose you could say. And once he was rendered, then I had planned to render him twice for strength, but because it took me so flaming long to render him, I just went, I cannot go back and do this again. I just could not do it. And perhaps he would have been stronger had I done that, and there'd be less breakage and there'd be less of this fixing, but I just couldn't. I had spent 2 weeks, and I'm a high school principal, I'm a busy person, and I went, I just cannot do this again. So I didn't, and my kids helped me, and I got some kids at school to help me. We had to, because cement renders are very thirsty because it's cement, we then had to seal him head to toe first, and I did buy some like cement sealer to do that, and I needed more, let me tell you, but that's what we did. So the kids at school helped me, and my own kids helped me, and I kept going back and forth because by that time I had placed him at school in the area that we were going to sculpt in. Originally I had placed him at school, it wasn't at home anymore, and then I had to keep going there to paint him, and that took a while, but eventually he got painted. And then after that I had produced him, and you know, the engineering feats, which weren't that engineering of me, but to put him together. So he ended up getting together, and I was able to take photos of him all together, and that was huge at the time. I was like, oh my God, this thing is finally together. It took me 18 months to get him to that stage. And once he was finally together, I basically got in touch with council and said, look, I've made him, where do you want him? He was, the whole point was to donate him to the town so that he could, people could come, tourists might want to come and see him. So as a starting point, so that's what I went to council, and council already knew that I was wanting to work on things but hadn't managed to get much off the ground at that point. And they went, sure. And council decided to pour a slab and put him where you see him here, which is the entry. If you come from Inverell and you're heading through Warialda, you will see him as you come into town on the right hand side. And this is where he has been ever since. And my husband and I installed him, and yeah, we borrowed the school ute and we installed him, and basically, and I never cared, and I still don't care that anybody knows that it's me that has done any of this. This is for the town, so it's irrelevant to me who knows that it's me that has done this. I suppose you now know that it's me that has done this because you're watching this, but I've never really cared if anyone knows that it's me. It's just a project for town, and it's an interesting feature for people to want to come and see, in the hopes that people will come here and maybe spend a bit of money, because the idea is that when the next drought hits, that I will have quite a few features around town in order to help our little town for drought times. Because drought here, oh, let me tell you, when it hits, whoa, it hits hard and fast, and it's a massive problem here when that happens, because it is next level difficult around here, because the entire, and I mean virtually the entire industry around here is based on what falls from the sky. And when it's drought, there ain't nothing falling from the sky. People are trying to keep stock alive. They're trying to feed with hay. Like, I knew people that at I think in a year, they had already spent like $500,000 just on feed to keep their stock alive. $500,000. Who has the funds to do that? Who has the funds to keep stock alive for $500,000, not knowing whether it's ever going to end, if this drought's ever going to end? So, well, it was certainly, yeah, I don't ever want to see another drought here, but I know it's going to happen because it's Australia, and that's just how it is. And people have been talking drought again, and we were seeing evidence that it was going back into drought, and I went, oh crap, I've already done 2 artworks, like that's not good enough. Like, oh my God, such a beautiful day. Have a look at this. Have a look at this beautiful day. I'm just going to turn, look at that. That is the view from my backyard, and it is just pretty as a picture. How pretty. I'm sorry I'm wobbling. I don't really have this on a proper selfie stick or anything at the moment, just in my hand, so
Okay, I do not want to, and I have minimal interest in going to do this, but it's lovely, and at least I'll be outside in the sun. So I'm going to go and do the final touch-ups to the bottom of R2, and I went to all the trouble of putting in or developing a piece to put in a broken section, and then I went to install that yesterday and it shattered, so I had to throw it out. How frustrating. So I'm going to have to come up with something else today and paint it too, ready to install that as well, I guess. Well, I got here to R2 but realised that I think I left or misplaced the thing that opens the can, you know, the little lifty thing. I don't know what they're called. I think I left it here, or I didn't remember seeing it when I left yesterday, so it's gone. So I've got to go to the hardware store and pick up another, which is okay because I've got to pick up something to cap a broken section of him anyhow. So 2 birds, 1 stone. Well, I'm at the hardware store and look who it is who's here. There he is. Hello, my 4th child. All right, hardware store it is. There he is. Okay, let's see if this is going to work in the bit that's busted at the back here. I really hope that this is going to work, because someone broke that off a while back and I just haven't fixed it, and I tried the other day. Okay, that'll work. Well, after looking around and not being able to find the thing that opens the can, because I thought I had left it here and it had disappeared, and I looked around and I have gone to set up to paint these things down here, and what should I see? Oh, what's this? For God's sake, I left it here. So it never hurts to have a spare, right? Okay, but the trouble is, I'm a high school principal. I work 55, 60-hour weeks, and trying to find time to work on the projects has been really, really, really hard. And well, I guess that's where this channel comes in the hopes that perhaps people might want to watch this or donate to town so that I can keep adding features to town. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what about other people? And I have tried a number of things with other people to help them, and like the men's shed have been amazing in particularly helping fix R2, and they helped definitely install Bumblebee, the transformer. So I do have that help, and I'm very, very grateful for it. We're just doing touch-ups now for any bits that I sort of got a bit of extra silver or a bit of extra yellow onto. So that's the mission now. When it comes to creative, artistic help, that is where I have tried. But what I have found, and like I've tried and I've done things with primary school students, which I'll share at another time, and I've you know, tried to bring in other bodies like the CWA and council and so on. But what I've discovered is this is my passion and my purpose, and I can understand if it's not theirs. November 2025, November 26th, the storm happened. It is now June the following year. This is how long it has taken me to get around to even doing anything. And as you can see, all the footage that I've sped up times 16, it has taken hours and hours and hours and hours to rebuild him, which was why I was going to throw R2 out, because I just knew I did not have the time to do that. I would rather spend the time on making something new.
But thanks to the men's shed, that didn't have to happen. But you might think, well, why do I do this? Well, I do it for the town. I do it for the town. Being a principal, and I would love to spend time doing the cool things that I've got planned. I've got so many things planned. I want to do Darth Vader, as I've said in this video already, I think. I want to do 2 stormtroopers. I want to get the bees happening so that they light up at night and they're really captivating for people who want to come and see at night time here. How exciting. So these are all the things that I want to do, except I am always busy working my bottom off, and what I'd really like to do is this for the town. If there's enough interest in watching me do these artworks and installing them in order to help my town, this is my mission. For some strange reason, it is not of interest to me to do artworks to sell, and I know that that seems weird. I think about that and I go, look, it just doesn't excite me. Like, there is nothing about doing artworks to sell to people that excites me. Maybe if people wanted me to, like, commission me to make something that was like super cool and I was into and I thought it was, I don't know, like, what interests me though is doing features for my town, and I can't really explain why. That's what motivates me. It motivates me to contribute to my community. It motivates me to contribute to my little tiny country town. Now, my mission, and I sound crazy when I say this, but my mission is for this town. If you're hearing trucks and stuff, well, I'm painting the bottom of R2 while we talk, and that's the bottom, which is the leftover bit from the storm, so I'm right on the highway here. But what motivates me is to create interesting features to turn this little place into the new groovy outback area to come to. Like, if it won't be long, I just had someone wave, I don't know who that was. It won't be long until tomorrow, where we try to install him. Now, part of the challenge is the weather has degraded the polystyrene, so tomorrow I'm going to have to scrape a lot of that off, and I don't know how to do that with any kind of neatness because I have to put spray foam. So on the top you can see, on the top you can see there's a bucket and a hole, and originally I'd planned that so that the buckets would help stability, and I had glued the bits together, except it blew off. So it's been sitting there exposed, and polystyrene exposed to UV light's not a good idea, let me tell you. And so that means it's degraded, which means when we spray foam tomorrow, because we're going to spray foam, because there's one that it connects to underneath. When we spray foam, the spray foam's going to go up and hold it, and I'm going to spray foam the top as well. It was last time I just glued it, and obviously in a storm bomb that doesn't actually last. If you come to Australia, my aim is to get you to want to come to Little Warialda to check out in person these cool features that are here that I made specifically for you, so that you might want to come here one day. If you are ever in Australia, come out to Warialda. Now, you might go, well, where on earth is Warialda? And maybe I'll put an image of where Warialda is here. And then the next thing will be Darth Vader and the stormtroopers. Darth Vader to start. I need to finish him first. So I've got Darth Vader on the go at the moment, and I don't know whether you know this, but in Australia we had Varroa-Vader hit our district, and that is devastating for the bee industry. But so what we've done, so Darth will be Darth Varroa-Vader. So I don't know how to put it, but I'll figure it out by the time I install him, because Darth is going to be part of the bee themes for the town, and
Take him down to install him.
well, bees, varroa mite has affected the bee population around here. It doesn't affect the native bees, only the introduced bees. Yeah, so that's the reason for Darth Vader. And I'm going to be putting him so that he's got his hand up ready to choke people. I'm so excited about that one. I can't wait because I just think that's absolutely hilarious. But it does show my age, doesn't it? But then I figure the kind of people that want to come out and see this might be perhaps retirees who might want to come and check out this place. And they will think Darth Vader is hilarious because they've grown up when I grew up, sort of thing. So... And then I plan to do 2 stormtroopers along with that one. If I do 2 stormtroopers in yellow and black, then there's the bee theme, and yeah, got Darth Vader there as well. So that will help it all happen, and have features for the town that they're a little bit kitsch, a little bit cool, and people might want to take photos with them being marched off by 2 stormtroopers, or being you know, choked by Darth Vader. I just think that's so funny. If you think that's funny, please leave a comment. I think it's hilarious. Maybe by the time you're watching this, I'll have already done it and you can see it. But at the moment, he's sitting in my shed and he's got a skeleton because a wonderful man was kind enough to weld me a skeleton, because I don't know how to weld. I don't know anything about metal really. So he welded me a skeleton, and I will get around to doing him too. I've actually got other projects that I want to work on. I've got bees that fly in the night and they look like they're flying, and they are the coolest thing. Like, I love them, and my idea is to have them hanging from trees around town wherever the council want them. Part of me kind of likes the idea of them flying to town, like on the main streets, like the highways coming into town. So like, can you imagine that you're driving on a country road and coming into a town, and in the darkness you see these cool bees flying and headed to town? And because Warialda is the place of wild honey, that's the bee theme, that's the reason for it. But how cool would that be to see that happen? However, not my call. So thank you for listening to this far. Thank you for keep watching my videos. I would appreciate it if you did like and subscribe, but more than that, also thanks for sending this on to someone else who might be traveling at some stage, or that is really arty and creative to make a difference in their community as well, because it takes more people that do creative things like this to make the world a better place, in my opinion. That's what I believe. The world is a better place for creativity and to make things interesting. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, what's the point? If we don't make things interesting and exciting, what's the point? I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time that you take watching this. If you got any other cool ideas for bee themed concepts, please let me know, because maybe I'll make it. All right.
Hey.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Come here to the camera. This is Tony. Without Tony, he couldn't have been put back together. He was going in the bin because just everything was broken after the big storm. So
we took him to the men's shed, and that's where we worked on him. I did a lot of the work, but then there's a couple of other people from the men's shed assisted me with other bits and pieces, and that's how we did the job. And then Shelley come up and gave us a hand, instructions on little bits and pieces to do that we needed to do that we didn't know how to do.
But I'm so grateful, and the whole town and Big Things Australia will be happy that he's back in place. I'm so excited. We're now just some touch-ups and some final bits to put on, and we're good to go. Yep.